Namaste. Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here together with my family in Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve in Uti. And in the next 20-25 minutes or so, I tell you a little bit something about UNESCO and about biosphere reserves and about the challenges and hopes that we have as humanity. And just like Johnny, thank you very much, Johnny, and thank you very much, Anita and Keystone Foundation for inviting me. I also want to mention that I'm very, very happy to see so many children, young people here, because you are the future environmental managers. Perhaps some of you will be the future biosphere reserve managers in Nilgiris or other biosphere reserves in India or maybe other countries. So on UNESCO, it's the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, Organisation Éducation, Sciences et la Culture. And I'm talking about biosphere reserves in India. I must say, since I've been based in India since 3 years, I'm really happy with the progress that India has made on biosphere reserve establishment. However, there could be more. We are working with the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate, and with them, with the National Committee on Biosphere Reserves, Mr. Bharat Singh, and we have really the hopes that every single one of the 28 Indian states and the 8 union territories will participate actively in biosphere reserve establishment, identification, establishment and management. So the origin of UNESCO is, of course, it comes like from most United Nations agencies, from the devastating and highly tragic, unspeakable tragedies of the First and the Second World War. It was believed that bilateral agreements between countries are not good enough to keep peace. So therefore we needed a platform for intellectual exchanges, and that includes science. This, I think the symbol here is speaks for itself. It was understood that the intellectual and moral solidarity between people needs to be fostered on the platform of science, education and culture. And UNESCO is building peace in the minds of men and women and children, of course. You will become men and women one day. This is Audrey Azoulay, our Director General. Until November, then we will have a new Director General in UNESCO. It will be elected. So the preamble of the Constitution of UNESCO says, since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. And what I mean here with men, of course, is men and women and children and everybody, the whole of humanity. The definition of peace. Peace is more than an absence of war. It means justice and equity for all as the basis for living together in harmony and free from violence. It means access to clean air to breathe, good water to drink, and enough food to eat for us, our children, and their children and future generations. Let me just point out how important nature is for us. It's very simple. Nature doesn't need us, but we need nature. Nature gives us air to breathe. If we don't have air to breathe, we will perish after 3 minutes. If we don't have water to drink, that's also given to us by nature, we will perish after 2 to 3 days. And all the food that we eat, one way or the other, also comes from nature. The mandate of UNESCO is very, very broad. I will not go into it in too much detail. We have various different programmatic sectors, 5 sectors that you can see here. We have the education sector that is there to mobilize education so that every boy and girl has access to quality education as a human right. That is, of course, not the case. Not everybody has the privilege. So those who have the privilege, who go to school and later to university, please remember that you have also a responsibility towards those who don't have the privilege to go to school. Social and Human Sciences program at UNESCO is managing social transformations. Take, for example, the Arab states in the Gulf. They were the poorest of the poorest. Only 60 years ago. Now they are the richest of the richest because of oil. Places like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and so on. So managing the social transformation is a huge challenge. In the culture program, we are building intercultural understanding through support for cultural diversity. And in the communication information program, we are protecting the free flow of information as essential for human dignity. That includes the protection of journalists. We don't need to look far. We have many places in the world where we have wars and armed conflicts going on. Myanmar, Sudan, South Sudan, Ukraine, Gaza, and so on. And believe me, a lot of journalists are losing their lives because they are targeted. And we try to protect the free flow of information coming from those journalists. In the natural sciences, that's what I will be talking about today, we are pursuing scientific cooperation to keep ecosystems and the human life support system intact. That is of the utmost importance. Perhaps there are many planets out there somewhere. Maybe, we don't know. But if they are there, we don't know how to reach them. We don't know them. This is the only planet that we have where we can live, that gives us air to breathe and water to drink and food to eat. And we should treat it with the utmost respect. And we have kind of forgotten that. We are not doing that. Our cities should be sustainable, but they are not. So this is perhaps the biggest challenge, and I'm addressing that to the upper rows of seats here in particular. Your challenge will be to make our cities and villages and countries and communities sustainable, because they are not sustainable right now. We have forgotten to respect nature, and we need to relearn how to respect nature. In the natural science sector at UNESCO, we have 3 divisions. We have one division dealing with policy and basic science. We have one division dealing with the hydrological sciences, including ecohydrology, hydroecology, and we have the ecology and earth science division. That is the division that hosts the Man and the Biosphere program, which is responsible for biosphere reserves. It also hosts the UNESCO Global Geoparks. We have then 2 sections. One is for small island developing states. Here in this region of the world, we only have one small island developing state, which is the Maldives, which is also the lowest lying country in the world above sea level. From the UNESCO office in New Delhi, we serve the Maldives, the Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and this very vast country of India with 1.45 billion people in it, 7,700 kilometers of coastline, and 3.3 million square kilometers of land. We also have a section that has been integrated into the Division of Ecology and Earth Science recently, which deals with local and indigenous knowledge. India is a founding member state of UNESCO since the 4th of November 1946, since before independence. Taj Mahal, of course, is the flagship World Heritage Site for India, but also one of the flagship sites in the world, really. It was named a World Heritage Site in 1982, and in 2025, India has a number of 44 World Heritage Sites. The human life support system that I addressed before, it gives us air to breathe, water to drink, food to eat. It also contributes to our health and well-being, which is reflected in the Sustainable Development Goal number 3, and it contributes to peace, in particular for coastal communities. And most communities in the world are living close to the coast. They are exposed to sea level rise. Take the Sundarbans, for example, in the Bay of Bengal, in Bangladesh and in India. They're exposed to sea level rise, the people who live there. But then they are also exposed to a glacial melt from the Himalayas, bringing more water down the rivers, the Ganga and the Brahmaputra. And then they get a change of hydrology from the land. The human life support system is challenged in this moment of history through population dynamics. When I was born, there was about 3.5 billion people living on the planet. That's a little bit less than the population of India and China together right now. In March this year, we exceeded 8.2 billion people on the planet. according to ecological calculations, we could perhaps be 10.9 to 11.2 billion people, 12 billion people. That's the maximum carrying capacity that our planet has. But we already have conflicts based on natural resources. And then, of course, there's the various different types of pollution that we are exposed to. In particular, where I live in New Delhi, air pollution. And the air pollution that does not just come from cars and buses and trucks. It also comes from coal-fired energy plants, and it comes from the geological dust pollution. And I'm a little bit disturbed that I'm in New Delhi, and every year between November and March, me and the rest of the 34 million people living in New Delhi, we are deprived of our human right to breathe clean air, which is a man-made problem, so it should be solved by people as well. The blind belief in technology is a huge problem for mankind. And let me just mention that we are still depending on globally on fossil fuel and nuclear fuel. Nuclear fuel, we had the Chernobyl disaster, we had the Fukushima disaster. We don't know where to put nuclear waste, and we have huge issues with cooling water for nuclear power plants. Fossil fuel, of course, the amount of emissions that we release into the atmosphere is just enormous. Yeah, and then we have anthropogenic disasters and the global collective stupidity of wars and armed conflicts that are still going on, made by highly irresponsible men and women. The life support system can be strengthened via concerted action to respect planet, people, and peace, and the Biosphere Reserve network of UNESCO makes a contribution to that. So the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve and all the other biosphere reserves are an active contribution, not just to nature conservation, but also to peace. Let me now take you on a little tour through the Indian biosphere reserves. Nilgiri was the first one that was established in the year 2000. I think, Johnny, you mentioned that it was already established as a reserve in 1966, but it was listed as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in the year 2000. That was India's first UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. As I said before, India is participating very well in the World Network of Biosphere Reserves, but only since very recently, since only 25 years. Sri Lanka, for example, is participating since 1977. There are 12 biosphere reserves in India. The global coverage of biosphere reserves is 7.4 million square kilometers, and they are home to 260 million people globally. UNESCO supports the identification, establishment, and management of biosphere reserves. We have currently 136 countries participating actively, and there are 759 sites in the world. Biosphere reserves are places to apply, test, and demonstrate best practices for human living in harmony with nature. So we do not just conserve nature for emotional reasons, like others are doing it with a very well-known cute panda bear, for example. We cannot conserve the panda bear just because it's cute. We have to conserve the whole habitat of the panda bear and the communities living in those habitats and ecosystems. That includes not just the panda community, but also the human community. Biosphere reserves are ideally contributing to all of the 17 SDGs. Let me just point out two Indian champions on biosphere reserve and natural science work. We have here Brinda Kashyap. She was awarded the UNESCO MEP Young Scientist Award in 2024. And on the right side, we have Jagdish Bakan. He was participating in the management of the Gulf of Mannar Biosphere Reserve in Tamil Nadu. And he's been awarded with the UNESCO Michel Baptiste Award in 2023. So you can see India and Indian people are participating very well, and I'm very happy about it. That doesn't mean that enough has been done. More needs to be done. We have, together with the Keystone Foundation here in the Nilgiris, a program called Women for Bees. It's a joint initiative by UNESCO and Kerala under the Men and the Biosphere program. It aims at empowering women through training in beekeeping and honey production, and it's being implemented by UNESCO in various different biosphere reserves in these countries listed here: France, Rwanda, my second home country, Ethiopia. I happen to be German and Ethiopian together with my family, but we also have activities going on in China, Cambodia, and in India. The Women for Bees in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserves is implemented in partnership with Keystone Foundation. We are very thankful for Keystone Foundation for the excellent partnership that we have. Thank you very much, Johnny and Anita. And I would also like to mention Pratim Roy, who will join us tomorrow, I believe. It aims at training 50 women from local indigenous communities in sustainable beekeeping. I think they are targeting at least 3 or 4 different bee species, honeybee species. And this text here, it gives you the information what they're all doing. It has just started, but we already believe that it will go on in 2026 and 2027 and beyond, and we will bring it in many different countries and into many different biosphere reserves from the 759 biosphere reserves globally that I mentioned. All right, Nilgiri Blue Mountains. This biosphere reserve was established in 2000. It's located in these 3 countries, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala. It's an important biodiversity hotspot with more than 5,800 species of flowering plants. Compare that to the entire Arabian Peninsula. There we have approximately 3,500 plant species. So Nilgiri is of outstanding importance for the conservation of flowering plants. We have here an aerial view from the Sundarbans. The Sundarbans was established in 2001. It's not only the largest river delta in the world, it is also the largest closed canopy mangrove ecosystem globally. It has a size of roughly 10.5, 11,000 square kilometers, and with that it has the size equivalent of the state of Qatar. That biosphere reserve is exposed, as I said before, to sea level rise from the ocean and to water fluctuations, hydrological water fluctuations from the land. The glaciers in the Himalayas are melting, at least most of them. That means there's more water coming down the rivers. Once the turning point has been reached from the glaciers, we don't know when that is, but in this phase of warming, we can then expect that less water will be coming down from the glaciers, and mangrove ecosystems are very vulnerable to hydrological changes, and that will be reflected in the food security and water security of the people living in the Sundarbans. On the Indian side, it's a biosphere reserve and a World Heritage Site. On the Bangladesh side, which is slightly larger than in India, it is a World Heritage Site, and we are working with the Bangladesh government to also encourage them to establish it as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. The Gulf of Mannar is one of the most productive ecosystems in the world underwater with the seagrass beds. This is the flagship conservation species, the dugong. It's one of the 2 remaining sea cow species that we still have on the planet. We have the manatees in the Americas. We have the dugong. The habitat extends from the Persian Gulf, the Arabian Sea, Red Sea, all the way through this part of the world, through Thailand, and then all the way through Papua New Guinea to Australia. And they are feeding on seagrass beds. Seagrass beds are important blue carbon ecosystems, just like mangroves and salt marshes, and these ecosystems are of tremendous importance for the sequestration of carbon, and they are in decline. We have lost almost 35–40%, maybe more, of mangroves globally. So we have to conserve them better, we have to restore them, and we have to conduct scientific studies into mangrove development. Nanda Devi is one of the 2 Indian biosphere reserves in the Himalaya mountain chain. The Hindu Kush Himalaya mountain chain extends over a distance of 3,500 kilometers from the west to the east, stretches 70 to 350 kilometers south-north, and it is, I believe, the third largest mountain chain in the world after the Chilean mountain chain and the oceanic underwater mountain chains. Nanda Devi was established in 2004 in Uttarakhand, and it has one of the highest peaks at 7,817 meters above sea level. Of course, there are only 3 countries in the world that have this. Pakistan, India, and China are the only countries that have ecosystems going from coral reef all the way to above 8,000 meters above sea level. Then we have Nokrek. It was established in 2009 in Meghalaya. Just like many of the Indian biosphere reserves, it has tigers, elephants, leopards. Here it has also the red panda and the hoolock gibbon. And shifting agriculture is the most important economic activity of the local people. Pachmarhi was established in 2009. It's located in Madhya Pradesh. We can also call it the Genetic Express Highway, linking 2 biodiversity hotspots, namely the Eastern Himalayas and the Western Ghats. I hope that on my way back to New Delhi, I will take a train from Trivandrum to New Delhi. I hope that I will be able to travel through the Western Ghats and have a good look at them out of the window. Similipal was established in 2009, characterized by waterfalls and streams and large rivers, and it's home for indigenous people. So you can hear already at every biosphere reserve, I'm not just mentioning animals and plant species, I'm mentioning people. Biosphere reserves cannot exist without people living in them. That's the whole idea of bringing people and nature together and make people understand that they are part of nature. Achanakmar Amarkantak, this biosphere reserve was established in 2012. It has 27 tribal, non-tribal communities that inhabit 418 villages in these dramatic landscapes of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. A Great Nicobar is located in the Union Territory of Andaman and Nicobar. There are some concerning developments going on. We will watch that at UNESCO because no country can establish biosphere reserves by themselves. UNESCO establishes these biosphere reserves, and that's what makes them transparent and credible. They have to be managed according to the agreed management plan, and UNESCO will revisit these biosphere reserves every 10 years. And it can happen that they might be delisted if they are not being managed according to the management plan. Agastya Mala was established in 2016, so you can see from 2000, when Nilgiri was established, to 2016, there's a very good progress here in India. Then we have the second biosphere reserve in the Himalaya, which is the Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve. It's also a World Natural Heritage Site. It was established in 2018. It goes all the way up to 8,500 meters above sea level. The good news is that Nepal, that currently has no biosphere reserve, they have recently visited the Indian Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve in Sikkim. Together with the Indian Biosphere Reserve managers and the Indian government, we catalyzed that at UNESCO. We brought the Nepalese and the Indians together, so the Indians can basically assist Nepal with their experience on what to do right, what not to do, what to avoid, how to establish and to widen the Kanchenjunga Biosphere Reserve, perhaps as a transboundary biosphere reserve in the Himalayas. Of course, on the Nepalese side, it will be managed by the Nepalese government, and on the Indian side, by the Indian government, by the Sikkim state government. But they can exchange academicians and professors and university students, school students, and so on. Panna was established just 5 years ago in Madhya Pradesh. It's also a critical tiger habitat. Those were the 12 biosphere reserves in India. Now, let me just point out very politely that India, with 3.3 million square kilometers, is the size that can fit the Kingdom of Spain 6 times into its territory geographically. Spain is the world champion in biosphere reserves in the world. They have more than 50 biosphere reserves. India has 12. India is 6 times the size of Spain. So I would like to encourage everybody here and everybody who is perhaps listening to us online, if there are anybody listening to us, India can identify and establish many, many more biosphere reserves. Other countries that have established a lot of biosphere reserves are Mexico and Russia. I think both of them have 48 biosphere reserves. So India with 12. It might be an interesting thought to develop a vision, perhaps to establish 50 biosphere reserves in India until the end of this century. These biosphere reserves are very important. We have produced this little brochure. It provides information on biosphere reserves in India, in Sri Lanka, and in the Maldives. Those of you who wish to have it, either contact me directly, please, or contact me through the Keystone Foundation, and we will send it to you electronically. Pockets of hope, that's how we call the biosphere reserves. You can see there's a tree that is being hugged by somebody. We don't want to be branded as tree huggers. We want to be branded as professional environmental managers, ecologists. But hugging a tree is an expression of respect for nature, and the footprints in the Pockets of Hope writing there, it also highlights and points out the importance of people in biosphere reserves. We have to conserve nature for us because humanity needs nature. A new book is in the making. We also call that Pockets of Hope in Central Asia and in South Asia. That is the network that we are supporting at UNESCO New Delhi together with UNESCO Almaty in Kazakhstan. And it will include all the countries from Iran in the west to Bangladesh in the east, the Central Asian countries, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and then the Maldives in the south. That will be available as an open access book. We will launch it next month in China. In September, there is the World Congress of Biosphere Reserves taking place in China. Takes place every 10 years. Maybe India might also think about becoming the host in 10 years from now. Why not? For sure there will be competition, but I think India would be a good country for it. So I'm inviting all of you to think about that. Another product that we have proudly produced is this book series. These are 3 books, Water, Energy, Food Security Nexus in Asia and the Pacific. We have 1 volume on the Pacific, 1 volume on East and Southeast Asia, and 1 volume for Central and South Asia that includes India. And it points out the various different aspects of water, food, and energy security, and also how that relates to the establishment of biosphere reserves. It also points out that the country of India has now reached 1.45 billion people. And it is estimated that until 2060, it will be 1.65 billion people. And all of our newborns, of course, they need the same energy and the same food and the same water, the same shelter, same education, same access to pharmaceutical medicinal products and so on like us. And it's a huge challenge. So population dynamics is a huge challenge. And if we don't establish biosphere reserves more and manage them well, then these people will put pressure on natural habitats inevitably. Just to illustrate the number, 200 million, that is the combined population of Australia, Canada, Russia, and Saudi Arabia together, roughly. These books that I just mentioned, they are also available as open access. Please contact me or contact me through Keystone. They are a huge success. They have been already downloaded 117,000 times. We have also these climate science literacy materials available. They are also available in 7 different Indian languages. And we are currently working on guidelines for visitors' interpretation education centers in South Asian biosphere reserves, and on guidelines for hotels and resorts in and around biosphere reserves so that they can participate, helping us managing the biosphere reserves better. This is a poster of a poster series that we have produced at UNESCO, 125 posters from all the countries in the world that have mangrove ecosystems. This is one from India. The Sundarbans is the only mangrove ecosystem in the world that has the Bengal tiger as a critical wildlife conservation species living in it. And we are quite happy with the way India is managing mangroves. It's actually halted the loss of mangroves and started reversing mangrove ecosystem development. On biosphere reserves, we have produced this flyer. If anybody would like to volunteer translating it into Indian languages, please contact me. We will give you the source files. You can hand it out. Basically, in summary, there is enormous potential in India to establish more biosphere reserves. I'm very proud of you guys here in Nilgiri, how you are doing it, how you are concerned about it, how you work together. But we do have the triple planetary crisis as a reality. We have biodiversity loss. We can't see it. Only scientists can measure it. We have climate change. It's a reality. Maybe we can feel it to a degree, but really when we have extreme weather events, those are weather events. They're not climate events. There are no such thing like climate events. We are measuring climate over a course of 30 years. And then we have pollution, and pollution is very visible. Air pollution is visible. Plastic pollution has been blown completely out of proportion. And I think this was my last slide, and I thank you very much for your attention. I hope you found it a little bit interesting, and if you have any questions, please use the opportunity and ask me. Thank you. Anybody can call a biosphere reserve. You can do that if your national legislation allows that, if your state government legislation allows that, if your community is happy with that, you can call it a biosphere reserve. But being listed as a UNESCO biosphere reserve on the world network of biosphere reserves, these 759 biosphere reserves, of which I hope that they will reach 1,000 in the next future. The UNESCO Biosphere Reserve can only be agreed, not even by UNESCO itself. It's the International Coordination Council, comprising of people like him. They make a decision from various different countries, and there's a turnover. It changes every now and then. They make a decision if this place is good enough to be listed as UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. Many of them are rejected or deferred. And if they meet the criteria, then they can be listed as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. And good news is that India will probably have another Biosphere Reserve next month. I believe it will be in mountain environments. It will be announced during the China Congress next month in Huangzhou. But no country can call a biosphere reserve a UNESCO biosphere reserve without the agreement of the International Coordination Council. To be honest, I don't know the details about that, but what we are asking at UNESCO, we are asking every 10 years for a report of the status quo of the biosphere reserve, and then our team at UNESCO headquarters in Paris in France, they will look into it together with the International Coordination Council. And if there is anything not being done the right way, in a grave way, then the consequences can be delisting, as I mentioned. Yes, I agree with you, it is. But then we should also be honest and address to every single country in the world that perhaps instead of wasting all of our combined monetary resources and wars and defense, we need to defend ourselves against the triple planetary crisis rather than some imaginary enemies invading us. So it's a question of money. Governments in the world, I would call on them, make more money available for environmental conservation to keep our human life support system intact. That means keeping clean air intact, keeping water intact, keeping food intact, but also the biota around us, our brothers and sisters, the animals and plants. Yes, I agree, but then we need more money for it. It's a very, very slow progress. The decision makers are mostly still people who studied business, politics, and journalism, and not ecologists, climatologists, meteorologists, zoologists, botanists. So I encourage those people who studied that at university level become politicians, some of you, and make sure that the national budgets will give us more money for nature conservation and environmental management and also environmental education. UNESCO has 194 member states. India is one of the member states, and Germany, where I'm from, is another one of the member states. United States of America, unfortunately, recently decided to not be a member state anymore, so therefore they will not pay their money into the UNESCO budget as of the end of 2026 any longer. So we are depending on sponsorship, on agreed amounts of sponsorship from the member states. Each member state pays some money into it. And countries can also make voluntary contributions to UNESCO. And then UNESCO is cooperating with foundations and with the private sector, either for specific projects or for the work of UNESCO as a whole. And the number of sponsors, it changes all the time. But the consistent money comes from the member states. And I would like to encourage each one of the member states to give us more money. So I would like to encourage you to talk to your teachers and ask them to make sure that once every year you visit a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve in India. That way you already make a contribution to Biosphere Reserve management, because it will enhance your knowledge and your skills, and it will also be very good for the local communities in the Biosphere Reserve to receive you as guests. Maybe you can stay overnight, maybe you can go to an excursion. We did that in February this year. I went to Sri Lanka. There we have the Ananda College, 7,000 students, and we took some of those students, not 7,000 in one go, but we took perhaps like 50 of them. We took a bus. We went to the Sinaraja Biosphere Reserve, and the students went into the Biosphere Reserve and learned about the Biosphere Reserve and the zonations and the core area and the buffer zone and the transition area and the flagship conservation species. So if you and your school, if you would visit a Biosphere Reserve and the school would embrace that as a permanent thing to do that every year, I would invite all schools in the world actually to visit Biosphere Reserves, the nearest Biosphere Reserve next to that is to the school. It comes down to the carrying capacity, really. That's a very, very important word in ecology. So for the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve and for any other place in the world, you want to have the carrying capacity not being overstepped by tourism, by the number of tourists and by the quality of tourists. And you also want the tourists to bring money into the Biosphere Reserve so the local communities can enjoy that.